Yeah, let's talk Pats.
This is interesting.
This is probably the most interesting of the teams right here because at quarterback, we have Cam Newton, enter Mac Jones from Alabama, rookie quarterback, drafted 15th overall. You know, we've talked a little bit about this quarterback situation in some of our YouTube videos, and, you know, we both felt pretty good about saying, okay, yeah, Cam's a starter, sure. Mac Jones comes in week 8. And now there's been reports coming out of Patriots camps that Mac Jones is really getting a grasp on the New England offense. There was a tweet that I saw that was sent to me. Let me pull it up real quick about Mac. And let me get it real quick. This is from Dubsy on Twitter. More from Bedard on Today. This was in late May. All right. Newton got up and identified the Mike linebacker. Great. He did that last year, and that's the very basic part of this passing offense. He delivered a ball in the seam a little late, but it was complete. Jones came up next. He identified the Mike and also tagged on a side by the offensive line. Okay. Now I'm paying attention. That's another step up. Then Jones and the receiver, Nelson Aguilar, both identified what the defense was doing. Weak side blitz. They looked at each other. Aguilar pointed. Then Jones said, I know. The ball was snapped. Jones probably didn't even have the laces and fired the ball on a slant into wide open space. Jones saw what the defense was going to do. He and the receiver made a slight adjustment, and the Patriots exploited it for a big gain. That's the freaking Patriots passing offense. If that's any indication, Jones is going to be a part of this very, very soon.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting. Considering that Cam... Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think we both thought Cam was going to definitely be the starter, at least for the first half of the season. But that sounds different.
It's a little concerning. Plus, Cam Newton just got a hand injury during practices, so he's out right now. Mac Jones also, I think, is dealing with a little bit of a knee injury, a leg injury, which has led Jarrett Stidham to be taking first-team reps right now. But, you know, this is not Cam Newton of 2015. This is not Cam Newton of old. This is Cam Newton is old. And, you know, not a lot of zip on the ball as much as it was before, but there was a lot of factors contributing to last season's performance of Cam. Obviously, new team, brand new offense, and a very complicated offense at that. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so he had to navigate that. He ended up catching coronavirus, had to sit out a couple of weeks, and he was still a decent fantasy quarterback up until he caught COVID and had to sit out. But this year, you know, what do we think? You know, there's a lot of good because it's year 2 in a system. He's over COVID. It's getting back to normal. That's an upside, but the downside is they just drafted a first-round quarterback to pretty much take the job. So where do we feel about Cam Newton? His ADP is 1912. He's virtually undrafted, and Mac Jones is 2709. So no one wants these guys, but I don't know. Are they waiver pickup? Are they waiver ads?
I mean, if no one else is drafting them, they're waiver ads. And that's kind of hard saying because I do see a world where Cam Newton is a good fantasy quarterback. How about this? If they said Mac Jones is going to be the starter week 1, are you way more interested? Are you drafting Mac Jones then?
Probably still not. I think it'd have to be. You have to see what he does. You have to see what he does in this offense, how he performs. But he's going to be. It won't be week 1, but he's going to be one of those top waiver priority quarterback. You're going to spend probably a good amount of fab, I think, on Mac Jones this season.
Yeah. Well,
what week it is to be seen. Let's talk running backs, though. Let's talk New England running backs. Unless you want to keep going.
I no, I don't think there's much more to say about these guys. It's a wait
Yeah.
and see game.
It is. It is. You're not drafting them right now. They're going to be waiver pickups. So let's get into running backs. You have 3, maybe more. I don't even know. It's so complicated with running backs. There's a history. Bill Belichick doesn't like to, have one back as the bell cow, and he could change it any minute. But right now we've got Damien Harris, Sony Michel, James White is still around, and I think 3rd or 4th round pick Ramondre Stevenson has now joined a very crowded running back room. Is there any fantasy gold out of this group of backs? What do you think?
Yes, there is fantasy gold. I think Damien Harris is being extremely undervalued. He's going in the
Really?
very last round. This guy, when he was healthy, he was getting the bulk of the carries, and he looked good running the football. He didn't have any of those crazy 30-point games. So
No.
I think that's why a lot of eyes aren't on him. But he was getting games over 100 yards, and that's kind of the important thing. He's getting work, and I think if he gets work, the touchdowns and the monster fantasy points, that will come. And I think there is definitely Belichick, I think, will have a successful fantasy running back this year, and I am banking that it'll be Damien Harris, and I think that is definitely worth the risk with the very last pick in the draft.
Yeah. I don't. So I see his ADP as 6'10". So I don't think he's one of the last picks in the draft.
6'10"?
6'10".
Oh, Mike, this must have all just changed. When did you look at these ADPs?
Right now.
Wow. The video I did last week all about must draft running backs, I included Damien Harris, and his ADP was in the very last round.
Well, the thing is, it's early in the offseason. A lot of people are looking at backs differently and different players differently. So ADPs are probably going to vary. Right now is, I think, when the most change comes to ADPs as training camps start and everything. But Damien Harris is definitely a guy who has gotten work. He can get 100 yards. They had 2 or 3 games that were 100 yards last year.
I think even more than that.
That's
some
pretty
games
incredible.
that were close to 100 yards, yeah.
That's pretty incredible to have multiple 100-yard games as a second-year player, especially on an offense that was kind of stinky last year. I think Damien Harris has the potential to be the one back here, but is Sony Michel still going to come in and take carries away from Harris? Is Ramondre Stevenson gonna become the new LeGarrette Blount for this team? What do you think?
I don't see any value in any of these guys. I think it's if Harris gets hurt and then one of them becomes the lead back, okay, then I'll look at him. I really do think it's Damien Harris season.
I think so too. You've been burned too many times by Sony Michel. We don't know what to expect from Ramondre Stevenson. James White could still have PPR value, though. That guy is always somewhat valuable in a draft. He's going to get drafted. He is going to be a late round draft pick, and I think he's still a fine pick on a team. He's not your running back one. You know how he's going to be used. So I think we can get past running backs.
Exactly.
Should we talk a little bit about wide receivers right now? Because it is not the best options out there, but they have made improvements from last year.
They're gross.
They really are. You're looking at Nelson Aguilar is the one, and I'm not sure what that says about the state of wide receivers in New England. He did have production last year in the Raiders offense. He was, the Raiders went through a lot of offseason troubles with AB, and, the whole wide receiver situation was in flux, but they finally kind of figured it out. And Nelson Aguilar came away as the wide receiver 1 in that offense. Now he's still the wide receiver 1 on New England, but you have N'Keal Harry, you have I think they lost Philip Dorsett. Outside of those two guys, who are you looking at in New England? And are you even looking at Aguilar or Harry?
I'm not. I don't see any value in the receiving core. We'll talk about these guys in a second, but I think the fantasy value in the receiving end is going to come from the tight ends this season.
I think you're right. We can let's talk the tight ends right now. You got Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, both come in from the Chargers and the Titans respectively, and we've seen Belichick have success with 2 tight end sets back in the Gronk and Hernandez days. Do we see this happening again with the Patriots with these 2 tight ends?
Not to that extent, but a light version of that. Gronk Hernandez light, if you will.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and I like them for fantasy. Hunter Henry especially, I think he'll be the main red zone target for this team.
I think Hunter Henry's dealing with a little bit of an injury. I think I saw something about that. Ankle foot injury, and he was getting tape, and he did not return to practice, and that was on Thursday. So this is early. So we're still in June. We're still in June. That may get heal up and everything, and we could be fine for the actual season. But I think both of them have value. I think they're being drafted a little bit higher than I would probably want them. Their ADPs, Jonnu's is 10 and 10-12, and Hunter Henry's 11-02. So they're about the same spot in drafts. I think in our mock draft, they went back-to-back as well. So
I like that price. You don't like that price?
They're not bad. Yeah. I think they're about fair. You're taking a flyer on guys that are in not the most productive wide receiver crowds around them. They could be they could be the top targets for Cam or Mac. So I think they're probably a fair price. And, I'd consider one of them. Which one though? That's the question. I don't know who you take. I think I'm higher on Jonnu, and I think you're higher on Henry, but it's kind of a crapshoot, especially this early into the offseason. We want to talk Patriots defense a little real quick. A lot of guys last year, a lot of guys sat out from COVID. Dante Hightower, their starting middle linebacker, who was the signal caller, was out last year. So I think it'll be a different defense.
And their best corner and the best quarterback in the league. What's his name?
Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore.
Stephon Gilmore sat out, and he came off a
No, he didn't. He didn't sit out.
Career season. Are you sure?
Did he really sit out last year?
I'm pretty sure.
I thought he was in last year, but I could be wrong. Either way, Gilmore's going to be there. Hightower will be there. You got the McCourty brothers back there too. I think New England's going to be top 10 defensive unit with potential to be a top 5. Like we already talked about Miami's defense and the Bills' defense. They're playing against younger quarterbacks, like especially New England, who has at least Cam Newton on the team. You have quarterbacks in Zach Wilson and Tua who are younger, and they play them twice a year. So the Patriots could possibly feast right here. Yeah. I think they have potential to be a top 5 unit.
They were before the season before COVID. They were, I think, the best defense in the league in 2019.
They were. Especially
and if they're getting all their players back, I think that's a return to form.
I think so too. New England will be back this year. I think last year was a mulligan just in general for the Patriots.